three of my biggest named customers, Delta, Walmart, and Mars, all came from personal referrals. Just someone out of the blue saying, hey, I know you do this. Can you talk to them? And we got them as a client. Like, we worked to get them as a client, but they probably wouldn't have looked at us if we just sent them a random email.
Welcome back to Growth Under Pressure. I'm your host, Eric Josovitz. Today I'm joined with Annie Eaton, CEO of Futurus and a pioneer in the VR AR space. Annie, thanks for joining.
Thank you, Eric. It's great to be on your show.
Of course. Tell me about your background. What made you start your own business and why extended reality specifically?
I did not know this was going to be my path, first off. I went to Georgia Tech for International Affairs and Modern Languages, which is totally opposite of what I'm doing now. But when I was working at a company a few years after graduating from college, I was introduced to virtual reality technology by a coworker at that company. And I just got very excited about it, wanted to learn more, saw some different opportunities to insert myself in learning more and growing my knowledge. And then he had suggested that we make a meetup group to try and expand the community in Atlanta and meet other people with similar interests. So we ended up starting a meetup group, and we had over 200 people show up to the first event, which was way more than we were expecting. And then very shortly after that, people who were attending those meetups started associating our names with virtual reality in Atlanta, and we started to get these like little consulting engagements. And then over time, not anything that happened quickly, but it just started snowballing into, oh, well, now that I know what I could do, how could my company leverage this and make a proof of concept or start to do a prototype? And so we slowly expanded with contractors and then full-time employees to create really a whole business around producing virtual reality content. And that was back in 2014. So this weekend we celebrated 11 years as a business.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Well, here on Growth Under Pressure, we talk about the challenges, the tough times, but learning about your experience going from a meetup to building the business, is it kind of what you expected when you were, doing that transition? Like, I'm not sure if I'm going to start a business. Is this the right move to make? Was that kind of, under your expectations?
Yeah, I had no idea what I was doing. I can say that now because I'm well beyond that point, but really it was a fly by the seat of your pants moment, really a fly by the seat of your pants couple of years, figuring out what we could do, how we could start to generate revenue. When we first started this, both of us had other jobs, working at the same company. I ended up going and taking a contractor position somewhere else so that I could have more flexibility, so that I had the time to start a business and then also have some income from another source. So it definitely wasn't just like an overnight, oh, we're able to sustain our livelihoods with this. It was very much like scrimping and figuring out what we could do. And I think one of the reasons that we were able to get to that point of revenue was just focusing so much on the education and helping people understand what virtual reality was, which I still try to do to this day. But if people don't understand it, they're not going to want to invest in it. And so that was really the primary driver in converting just these conversations to paid consulting and prototyping jobs.
Yeah, it's such a big transition from being more of a hobby, something you love doing, gaming, to now selling it, right? Which is becoming ultimately a salesperson, and then as a CEO, your strategy. So is that, I mean, just kind of like looking forward, is that a lot of what you do is sales, educating, business development as a CEO?
It still is. Yeah, that is probably maybe I'd say over half of my job. I am lucky when you and I met a while ago, I was the only salesperson at Futurus. Now I am not. So that's a big change, which I'm so grateful for. But even to this day, 11 years later, I am always in meetings educating people about the technology. I think in addition to educating them about what it can do, I think it's really important to also make sure people understand its limitations. There's a lot of things that people think are real, especially with the age of AI that's been in our faces lately. Or they're seeing, these AAA gaming trailers and they're saying, oh, I want my content to look like that. I'm like, okay, well, do you have $100 million? No, I don't think it's going to look like that. So it's not only setting expectations about what the tech can do, also what it can't do. And then doing things like this where I just get to reach new audiences and share what I love and hopefully get other people to take the technology seriously as well.
That's so cool. And you're a graduate of Georgia Tech, or is that?
I
Yes.
am,
Okay.
yes, yes.
And what do you think about, degrees nowadays? It's of course with sales in mind, a lot of that is learning, just speaking to people, but like, do people need a degree if they want to get into extended reality?
Yeah, when you asked about Georgia Tech, I thought you were going to ask about our 8-0 football record this season, but
It's impressive.
degrees are important too.
It's impressive. I feel
Yeah.
like you guys can break into that top five. It's
I don't, yeah. It's exciting. I know I'm going off on a tangent, but this
sure.
never happens for me, so I'm just very excited about it. But when it comes to degrees, I was actually having a conversation about this yesterday with some of my team members. We were talking about the importance of degrees and also because we do a lot of work now in manufacturing, we are seeing firsthand how difficult it is for those companies to hire and maintain talent. And people always talk now about how the job market is so I don't know, difficult. There's, so little opportunities out there. And it's like, okay, yeah, those are for office jobs. But if you look into any more like hard labor skills or manufacturing or trade, you are going to find plenty of jobs and also a lot of companies who will invest in the people to train them on the job. And so for what we do, I would say a 4-year degree is great if you're in the right program. Two of my best employees don't have college degrees. One didn't go, one dropped out, and they are performing, at I say all my team members are A's. Like I have no B's and C's. They're all A's, but like they are just right there at the top with the people who do have degrees. So I'd say if you're motivated and able to teach yourself, don't bring on the debt, but also for certain industries, it is a valuable thing to have.
Yeah, and position as well, right? Like a sales
Hmm.
position or starting a business being risky versus being a developer. There's a lot of boot
Yeah.
camps, and a lot of it comes down to passion and what you like. Um, and those are, you said those are developers, right? Those two employees.
Yeah, one's a developer and one's a designer. And the developer, I mean, he's been using Unity, our game engine that we develop on top of since I want to say middle school. Like the tools are available for people to teach themselves from such a young age that I think as long as, you're using the resources and applying it by starting to create your portfolio, then that's something that you can take further than school. I don't want to speak for him, but I think the reason he dropped out was because he wasn't learning anything new. Like it was all stuff that he had already done in middle and high school. So, you don't want to take on tens of thousands of dollars of debt to learn something you already know.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you learn so much in the first couple years, in, when you're working, when you're even just an employee. That's a college degree in and of itself, and there's also so many different, learning experiences out there with content now just being at the forefront of our lives. So, just kind of transitioning to and just elaborating more on sales. How do you ramp up your sales experience? I mean, I of course have had to get more clients and had to like learn sales versus just being a relationship builder. But what's kind of worked for you when learning more about sales?
Yes, that's a tricky one because we have been, I would say lucky, but it's strategic. So in all of the education and speaking and all of that I do, we get quite a bit of inbound leads from those opportunities as well as referrals from industry partners. I would actually say the partners are probably the number one source of any sort of lead generation, up until recently, but I'll get into that in a moment. So by doing, speaking and education, we're kind of already getting people excited about what we do, even if they don't know that it's for them yet. And then it's more of like a warm approach once they realize, oh, that could work for me. Maybe I was just wanting to learn about something new, and now I'm thinking, oh, these are the applications. I could do that. But yeah, the partnerships, I think, because the extended reality industry is still fairly young, fairly small. The technology has been around for decades, but I think it's really started to just generate all of the excitement and really proving out that it can work in the past 10 years. There are a few players that have been around a little while that were complementary to each other. So thinking like I'm content, but I can't really get my content out to anybody without hardware. So we have good relationships with all of the VR hardware manufacturers, and they can't really do what they do without the content. So if they get in an opportunity or someone wanting their hardware but doesn't have the software, we all just kind of communicate with each other and have relationships that help promote each other. So I think because the industry is still growing and we're still figuring out where we're going, those are some of the best lead opportunities. We have started very recently working on more outbound lead gen that again is still very new to us. Our sales guy, who is not me, the other one, he has taken on the responsibility to manage this program, and so far it's actually working. And I'm like, dang, why didn't we do this sooner? But I think in doing that, the reason it is working is because our messaging isn't very salesy. It is very educational. It's very case study based, and it's talking about real results that people have seen using the technology. So our hardest thing that we have to do is convince people that it'll work. And so if we have other clients who are allowing us to share that, it only helps our case.
That's interesting. The outbound cold outreach style of getting people and tagging them, pinging them multiple times is annoying, and most people don't like that. But if you have that warm approach, or it's a strategic approach, or call it relationship building with
Mm-hmm.
partnerships and educational, it is the long game. So you guys have really been playing the long game, increasing your brand and increasing awareness on what you guys do, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, three of my biggest named customers, Delta, Walmart, and Mars, all came from personal referrals. Like just someone out of the blue saying, "Hey, I know you do this. Can you talk to them?" And we got them as a client. Like, I mean, we worked to get them as a client, but they probably wouldn't have looked at us if we just sent them a random email. I don't know, maybe, but
For sure.
it helps.
Yeah, I highly doubt it. So
Mm-mm.
fast forward to today, I know you guys have done a lot of corporate work building, VR programs for companies to, whether it's educational or instructional or saving them time and money. Just kind of take me back or take me forward to today and, give me a snapshot more on what you guys are doing with manufacturing and everything else.
Yeah, so we have almost exclusively focused in training in the past probably 4 years now, almost five, and not any kind of training, mostly hard skills training, so process and safety training. And manufacturing is a big vertical. As mentioned with Delta and Walmart, we've got some retail work, some aviation work, but all in process and safety training. So it's nice to have that like clarity in what we do. I think it's been also very helpful in the sales process for our messaging. But with those and with what we're seeing, I think the safety training is huge. I mean, if you think of the ability to even put something in place that will reduce one injury, two injuries on site a year, that can be huge for not only the human factor of someone's life and or an injury, but also the financial impact of workers' comp, insurance, medical bills, all and lost time and lost production. So that's been a really good place to settle. A lot of it is more provable. So manufacturing, the best thing about working in manufacturing is that they already are tracking everything. They're tracking, their output, they're tracking their downtime, they're tracking, the people that are coming out of training and their efficiency levels. And so because they already have all of these metrics, it's been a lot easier to prove that VR, when inserted into the right use case, is working. We had one customer who, after implementing VR 6 months, for about 6 months, they noticed that the employees coming out of VR training versus the traditional training class without VR, we're already operating 18% more efficiently. So if you think about that and you scale it across a 2,000 person site, I mean, the numbers are going to be astronomical. So we've been excited every time we hear of these metrics and the fact that it is working, and I think it just makes us feel more motivated to keep going.
Yeah, it's super cool what you guys are doing. I've been impressed from the beginning. Give me an example if you can share about one of your clients. I know, with Delta, something could be, you're keeping the employees off the tarmac. They're not doing training, in and around airplanes, but maybe just a use case.
Yeah, for Delta, the major one that we've been releasing and then updating every year for the past, I think, 4 years now, has been their plane de-icing program. So one of the problems or challenges that they had was that when they want to do a proficiency check to make sure a plane de-icer knows what they're doing, they would have to do that with a person, with the agent who's being assessed, with someone watching them, and with a physical plane. And they could either do that, I guess, on a live plane, or they'd have to pull a plane off, or they'd have just a plane sitting there. And planes are better in the sky. Like planes are making money for Delta when they're in the sky. So the less downtime they have with their planes, the better. And, then the happier the customer is as well, which is always wonderful. None of us want delays because someone is validating a de-icer's competency while you're looking out the window. And so to make that kind of infinitely scalable, in fact, they were able to increase 50 times the amount of people that they were able to check on virtual planes than real planes, from 3 people to 150 people per day per site.
Wow.
They were able to do that in VR. And unlike a person who's, probably in bad weather conditions and can't see and is trying to check their proficiency, the programming checks it all. So yeah, the person observing is still there and still making sure they know what they're doing, but also we have the doors and the windows and certain pieces of the aircraft that they are not supposed to spray as trigger points. So when they do it in VR, it's kind of gamified, like that fails them. That is a failure to their proficiency. And so they have to pretty much go through it perfectly to be able to be approved to de-ice. And so, I always feel great about that because I know the people out there doing it are qualified and they've been reviewed that they can do that job. But it's also nice that every single person that goes through that is getting the same treatment. They're getting the same observations. And then we've added some additional variables into it. So different contaminant types, different plane types, different times of day, whether it's like daytime or nighttime, so visibility things. So all sorts of different variables that we've been able to add over the years just because they've continued using it and updating it. So that's an example.
That's really cool. And what's next for Futurist for you? Do you have any goals for 2026? Is it just more of the same, or do you guys have? I know you've developed a game in the past. You know, is it like what's on your list? What's top of your list?
Well, as a finance guy, you're going to be super excited when I say these words, recurring revenue.
Okay.
That's our goal. So the project-based stuff is great. Like I love the custom work. It's really fun and we get a new challenge every single time. But as I mentioned earlier, the safety training has been just so positively received. It's been able to prove a really great return on investment for many of our customers that we started seeing overlap in the types of safety training requested among manufacturers and more like logistics, supply chain, warehousing environments. And so we've created our own licensable product called XR Industrial, which is a series of safety training simulations. They're all generic, they're all based on OSHA standards. So we have things like personal protective equipment, pedestrian safety around mobile work equipment, um, lockout, tagout, just very common things that are important for anyone in those environments to be trained on. And we have a tablet companion app to where the moderators or the safety managers can lightly customize the simulation to align with whatever their site requires. So, for example, in personal protective equipment, not everyone is going to be wearing the exact same things. Maybe one job role will wear a hard hat and safety vest and steel-toed boots, and maybe another role that's in a lab will wear like a hairnet and a lab coat and chemical gloves. And so you can set up these configurations very easily, just like a couple clicks, save it out, and then be able to deploy those slightly configured VR simulations to your team. And so we kind of wanted to create this hybrid between the custom stuff, which is very expensive, takes a little while to produce, and then off the shelf, which is so generic that it's not helpful to a lot of people. So we created this hybrid model, which is XR Industrial, and we're licensing it out. We just started, well, it just launched a couple months ago. We already have customers in manufacturing that are using it and growing. And so that is very exciting for me. I think 2026 is going to be a very different year.
Well, you're right. I do love it. Uh, Annie, let's talk a little bit more. This was great to build on. Let's talk a little bit more about those tough moments and the cash flow scares. This is the part in our podcast where we talk about the growth under pressure moment.
Yes.
Those days where you weren't sure what tomorrow looked like. I know, we worked to get together, and there were some times where things were tight, but maybe there's a example or two you can think of where you weren't sure what tomorrow looked like, and it was just a really dark time.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to that several times over the past 10 years, and you got to witness some of those firsthand. We did have to do layoffs at one point, and I should know exactly the date. I want to say it was May 2023. I'm probably correct about that. It it this is really why, and I don't need to like beat a dead horse. This is why we want recurring revenue, is because those moments are so scary. As a business owner, I mean, I care so much about my team that that is like the driving factor to me wanting to figure out a way to not have those scary moments. But in our current model and the model we have done for the past 11 years, it is all project based work. It is extremely difficult to convince people they need VR. The projects are great, but they are still, few and far between. I'd say the close rate is pretty low, and by low I mean not great. And it's something that will get cut. People don't see it as necessary. When you tell them even how much people are saving or how much people are recognizing by implementing this, it still isn't enough to get them on board to do it. So we have these like amazing flash in the pan opportunities, but then once those die down, it's like, okay, what next? We are constantly having conversations. We are constantly trying to figure out what's next. I feel extremely lucky that the majority of my current big customers have come back to us for multiple projects over years. Like that has been incredible, and I just feel so fortunate for that. But in those moments where, we think something's going to close, we had something that we thought actually last fall we had, I think, about $12 million in deals that were in either proposal writing or proposal sent or contract sent. And over the 6 months following that, um, I'd say 90% of them got canceled or punted down the road until TBD question mark. Still haven't reopened those conversations with some people. One got signed in May, one got signed in July. Like, and it was just crazy scary because you think you have all this opportunity, everything is going incredible. Like, how can, even if you get a fraction of these things, you're going to be okay. And then everything disappears overnight for 6 months. Like that happened to me last fall. So I think when these moments don't end, and I want to figure out a way for these moments to end because they are the worst. They are the absolute worst.
Wow. Yeah, and I know you're such a people person. You really care about the people that work for you and that are part of your culture. And I can kind of relate because we do have our recurring revenue with our monthly services, but we're getting some bigger clients, and we had a really big deal, and it was we got the yes, the verbal yes, and the next day he was like, "Oh, we need some more time to think about it." And the whole team was ready to go. I had somehow produced like three people to work on this project, and it was a recurring project in less than a week. This was a company out of California. They reached out to us. It seemed like an awesome fit. We were ready to go, and there was just one variable that they wanted to change, and it's just like that. You can lose a deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I think over the years I've gotten a little bit jaded and where I'll never get like that excited. I will always be excited about new opportunities, but I will never ever believe they're happening until I get that signature on that contract. Even if I get the verbal, I'm like, this is awesome. How many more months till we get the signature? And I mean, I don't know how the sales cycle or the timelines are with the companies you work for, but like with enterprise, sometimes it's like 12 to 18 months to close a deal. It's very long. Even just getting through like the MSA can take months. And so, I think that's like the biggest thing I can do to, as a service to myself and my sanity is temper my expectations. Always be optimistic, but never celebrate until I get that signature on the dotted line.
That's such a big lesson. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I definitely learned from this one. This was my first big one that I started to get excited for. Right after the call, I'm like, yeah, get a
Yeah.
drink, and then I kind of slowed down, understanding what could happen. But you're absolutely right. Things can change at a moment's notice. Luckily for us, it's like 12 to 18 days for
Oh,
for
that's so
most deals.
nice. Oh, I'm so jealous.
Yeah, but it's much smaller. So it is nice, but I think this licensing opportunity for you guys is going to be big because a lot of companies do need it, especially the ones that are doing a lot of training, that have people out there in the field, weather changes. So thank you for sharing that with us. I want to dive into XR a little bit because you're an expert, and if you want to touch on AI and how that, if there is some involvement, because that's such a big term that everyone's throwing around these days. What are the emerging products? Where can people, companies get started? Would just love to give our audience some tools and ammunition to, as an intro to XR.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a quick shameless plug. So I wrote a book. I didn't even tell you that, but it came out last year. It's called The Extended Reality Blueprint, and it is all about demystifying the AR/VR production process, and it is written for a non-technical audience. Like it's specifically written for business leaders. So I'll bring that up. There are other resources, but I'm bringing that up because I wrote it as a resource for people who were interested but didn't totally understand all that went into it. We've gotten a lot of questions that are like, oh, is it like making a video? Is it like building a website? Is it like building an app? And it's like parts of all those things, yeah, kind of. But there are a lot of things that are different when you start to think about things spatially or in 3D, and not only seeing them spatially, because like we'll see 3D objects on a screen, or you see like Pixar movies, and those are kind of like 3D on a 2D screen. But in VR, you're able to reach out and touch things and interact with things and move around a space freely in 3D. And it's just a different way of thinking and designing. And because we have, I guess, been so conditioned to be thinking in 2D and thinking on flat screens, it is, you kind of have to like drop some of that to be able to think differently. I can't remember if I told you this when we started working together all those years ago, but it's like, okay, like put your finger in the air and draw a cube. I kind of want to see you do it. I know this is a podcast,
Yeah.
but I will verbally say what Eric is going to do. He
Okay.
might have
Am I
already
going to
done
do
it.
this right now?
Yeah, do it right now.
All right.
He's drawing a square, and then what? Yep, he did it
I
right.
guess you
So
got to
he's,
do all this. You got to
yeah,
do all
he's
that, right?
pulling it back. So he pulled his finger back, which represents the third axis. And a lot of people, when they draw a cube in the air, they draw it like they draw on paper. They draw the diagonal straight up instead of towards them or away from them. So Eric, because you already know about VR, you have a head start. You were able to
Cheated.
draw a real cube. So congratulations. But yeah, for that's like the kind of thing you just have to drop. You have to drop the fact that you were thinking in 2D previously. Um, I don't, so other resources, I mean, there are a lot of there's a guy who makes a newsletter called the Immersive Wire you can look up. He does a great aggregate. I think sends his email out maybe once or twice a week, so it's not overwhelming, and it's just an aggregate of all the AR VR news across the world that past week. I'd just say everything changes so quickly. I know it's the same in AI as well, that like there's not really anything you can do to just like learn everything. You kind of just have to look at what people are doing and learn from them. So I would just say find newsletters like Immersive Wire, read books like The Extended Reality Blueprint. I have a friend who has a podcast called Trending XR that has some really interesting conversations on it. So yeah, just you kind of have to look around. There's not one central place.
Awesome. Well, send me a link because I want to buy a copy.
Okay.
We'll also provide that link in our show notes for our viewers. But keep me humble here. Is Oculus, I know I'm outdated. What are the
You're
next
good.
goggles that people are using in VR, and what do you think is going to emerge as the better?
Yeah. So Oculus, which see the fact that you call it Oculus means you're an OG. Like no one calls it that anymore except for the real one. So now the Meta Quest has superseded the Oculus devices. So same thing, same company, just Meta owns all of it, and the Quest devices, which are the ones you see commercials for that everyone wants for Christmas or the holiday season, those are like the most popular consumer device. There are other devices that are very popular for business use cases. So HTC still has headsets. They have something called the Vive Focus and the Vive Focus Vision. And those are all, I guess, comparable in that they are standalone headsets. There's no wires. They don't have to connect to a computer to run, which is so nice. And then another manufacturer that we actually use quite frequently is the Pico line of headsets. They don't sell consumer headsets in the US, but they do sell enterprise headsets, and the Pico 4 Ultra is their latest, and it is a great headset. A lot of my clients are using that one. Of course, there is still the Apple Vision Pro. I don't know many people who are using it for business, especially at its price point. I think $3,500 is the latest. I'm sure everyone's like rolling their eyes about that, but I am grateful for it because the device, I don't know, just the fact that there's new hardware entering the market, pushing the boundaries of what was possible before, and deploying something that's just super high quality means it can be done. That price is a little much to swallow for most people, but I do appreciate that they released it. And it's a great thing for developers to have access to because as the headsets get less expensive, there's already something for people like us to develop for and design on, so we have a head start once it really gains traction. And then just last week, there was a headset announced called the Samsung Galaxy XR, which has been under wraps for a little while. I think I saw the first announcements about it in February, maybe this year, but they officially announced it. I think you can buy it now. The price point on it is around $1,800, but it is more comparable to the Apple Vision Pro. A lot of the specs are just totally in line with the Apple Vision Pro. And we have actually been an early development partner of theirs. So that has been nice too, to be able to see the latest and greatest in that hardware. So Samsung is in the game, which I think, again, as more and more manufacturers get in, the better it is for the whole ecosystem. But those are some of the new ones.
I don't know if you can say this, but do you think one of the companies will emerge over the others? I mean, I guess on the
Mm.
business and personal side.
On the business side, I was gonna say Meta has the edge on consumer, no question about that. Um, that's a, I mean, the not even problem, but like the reason I'm having trouble answering is I do think each of them has their own benefits. Um, and the ones that are like these higher price point ones, like they do more things. They have better quality optics. They've got higher processing power. Like that's great. And so logically, or I guess objectively, you'd say, oh, that headset is better. but I would have a lot harder time getting my client to buy hundreds, if not thousands of those. So I think the one that will emerge is the one that's got great specs but at a good price point, which, yeah, Pico might be taking the cake on that one.
Okay. And is there, if I'm down the wrong path, let me know, but is there an AI component that's now involved with XR?
They're starting to emerge, which is great. I will say we are extremely cautious on what AI tools we would use in a production like that's going out to a client. And if we ever are exploring or considering using any AI tool, we confirm it with a client before we use it. Um, because there is, as the kids call it, AI slop out there, and we don't want any of that in our stuff. So we'll evaluate new tools. We are already using things like 11 Labs, which is an AI voice generation service, and that we'll use for instructional content. We won't use it for like a narrative experience. Like if we need more emotion behind the voices, we'll still use traditional voice actors, which has been great to have those relationships. But there's another platform called Convey that allows you to train 3D characters to have a personality and have a whole data bank of information so you can incorporate training content, or if you're trying to do a de-escalation or other soft skills training, you can program the character to act in a certain way or to have a certain personality or backstory. So those types of tools are coming out and those are working, and we would and have integrated them in projects, and that's great. The thing that I feel like is not quite ready, at least for what we are doing, is the 3D modeling AI tools. So there are some really cool things out there. There's something called Gaussian Splat, which sounds so fake, but it is a real thing that are helping people create these really beautiful 3D worlds. But one of the things about our training is that we have to have a lot of interactivity with components and tools. And that type of environment creation doesn't work for the work we do. So that might work more for an experiential deployment, or maybe games, or maybe marketing. But when we're trying to have interactivity with these small components or teach someone on like an exact piece of machinery, we're usually working from reference of the exact machinery itself or engineering files. And so it's just a different pipeline, but we are keeping our eyes on it, and I'm very excited to see what comes because the production timelines are very long right now. So anything that we can do to expedite content creation without sacrificing quality, I am very interested in.
Awesome. Maybe you guys can build your own AI into
Maybe
into
so.
what you're into the tool that you just built.
Yes. Yeah, we've been talking about that. I think for us, it's figuring out where it makes sense because safety content and AI are like big no-nos together,
Right.
mainly because it's such a serious topic that you want to make sure everyone is trained to the standards and the same. But where I see some opportunity is maybe training everyone on the same at first, and then maybe using AI to generate different scenarios or to help different learning styles and adapt the training to those different learning styles. So I definitely think there are possibilities. We just have to figure out what they are.
Cool. We talked about the dark moments. We talked about what you guys are currently doing and where you started. Give us the good, the bad, and the truth of being a founder CEO, the parts that don't make the highlight reel.
Yeah, I definitely should have gotten, or at least found, I'll say found sales help earlier or let go of things earlier when it came to sales. I think, especially in the type of business that I'm in, where it is a small industry, like we are specialists, and now my name is associated with it. And now, I mean, even with the book coming out as an industry expert, I'm putting in air quotes because I still feel like that's weird. Uh, like I'm not going to be able to be detached because one of the reasons people work with us is because of our expertise, which is tied partially to me. So I think I'm never, hopefully someday, but I'm never going to fully be able to like detach myself as long as that is our business. But I think the ability to find someone who can kind of take these opportunities and do the the preliminary groundwork and education and qualifying the leads and making sure people have budget, like all of that is the only way that I can scale my time. If I'm still going to be attached to the sales process, like my time is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller per opportunity. And so I think being able to insert myself at the right time in these leads is something I should have thought more about sooner. Really, just letting go of control of things is something I wish I had done earlier. I care cared a little too much about certain elements and I didn't put my trust in the people that I had hired, which I should have trusted. I mean, I do trust them, but like I should have proved that I trusted them by letting them have more responsibility sooner. And I think one of the things that was like the best thing that could have happened for the business was me going on maternity leave a couple years ago because a lot of founders like won't do it and they'll say like I can't do it, which in some cases is very difficult. It was still very difficult, but like coming up with a plan, months and months ahead of time and saying I'm going to use this as first off an opportunity to bond with my newborn child, but second off, I'm going to think about this as a business opportunity to extract myself from every like dependency that I am currently like the business is currently dependent on me and be able to use this as an exercise. Look at me making making my birth of my child business exercise. But it worked. Like it was so great because I had a backup for every single thing that I do. I was able to like all the clients were taken care of, all the projects ran smoothly, like any opportunities were still maintained because I proved to my team that I trusted them, which I had all along, but I hadn't shown it with my actions. And so I think that was like the best thing I could do is like rip the band-aid off for a couple months and let them do it and they exceeded my expectations. So even if you're not having a baby, just like disappear for a couple months and see what happens.
I'm done having babies personally, just to
Yeah.
throw that out there.
See, you don't need to. You just need to like force yourself to separate
Right.
from the business.
Yeah, I sometimes hear that it's good, even if you go to the beach for a day or you go to the
Yeah.
mountains and you just be that visionary. That's what the CEO should be doing. So, do those changes still stay true today? Are they still stuck in, or do you find yourself still coming back to the I want to take control?
I'm a lot better than I used to be. Yeah, a lot better than I used to be. I still am excited. There are certain clients that I am probably more involved with than others because they were my clients years ago. And so I like that relationship is just so strong and I have been so used to working with them that like I will be there probably more often than I should. But I will say like my chief operating officer and I are very intentional about taking time on a regular basis to not respond to messages, take like a half day and go somewhere else. We don't go to our offices, we don't go on like Teams, we go somewhere else completely and just talk about the company, what we need, what we want to do, like all the ideas we have, where things could fit in, and be very strategic about things. And ever since we started doing that, I've noticed we've also been able to identify problems sooner and think about how we can mitigate those risks earlier. So I think even if you have to force yourself to do it, like doing it away from your desk or away from your office environment or wherever you typically work is so helpful when getting into that headspace.
What's the frequency that you're doing those offsites?
It's only quarterly. It probably should be monthly, but it's quarterly.
I think quarterly is good. Some people only do
Yeah.
it annually.
I know. Yeah, no, we do it quarterly. And my team is going to listen to this and they're going to roll their eyes, but the last one we went and got pedicures. Like we couldn't have our phones or laptops. We're like, we're just going to do this. And then we were talking the whole time. And I think that's good.
I love that. In today's day and age, and I don't know, call it the 21st century, you can do that. Back in, the
Oh yeah.
1930s, you're not
Right.
you're not doing that. You're grinding it out.
Mhm.
That's awesome. So one thing I've noticed, not all successful people are created equal. There's something specific about their childhood or their teachings from their father and mother that translate to a successful life. Can you pinpoint that aspect or influence that you've received?
Whoa, that's a deep question. I I feel I mean, I'm extremely lucky for the childhood I had. I had two parents who were very loving and supportive and really wanted us to strive for excellence. I think outside of the academic excellence that they expected, they wanted us to be well-rounded. So we would uh, participate in other creative outlets. So my sister and I did both dance and piano since we were like toddlers. I think I started piano lessons when I was 4 years old, and I do believe that having both the like academic side but also the creative arts side of my upbringing did make me think differently. I think piano, I would advise anyone to put their kid in piano even if they hate it because or some kind of music because it really does like work both parts of your brain at the same time. And I don't know, I think with the dance part of it, being able to force myself to perform from a young age, like in front of people, was also great for my confidence, even though that was very scary for me. Um, I think just being able to like suck it up and do it and, you know, be exhilarated and have that feeling of what it's like to perform in front of people was also very helpful in putting myself out there and being a little uncomfortable in that in my career. So I'd say, of course, yeah, the loving, supportive thing. I'm lucky. I don't have probably as much childhood trauma as some of the people that end up doing really great things because I think that's what drives them. But I think my drive was, I don't know, just not wanting to settle for much. I want to do what I want to do and I know I can do it because of the confidence that was instilled in me.
That's really good. That, you know, and again, it goes back to that uniqueness of every entrepreneur being different, that you don't have to just be traumatized and, you know, grow up in a third world country and make a comeback. You can also be loved, supported, and your parents pushing you. And we just, you know, I'll just share this. We just bought a chessboard for our kids. We want to start doing that. Um, so, you know, I got Ollie and Violet, and they're like getting into it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and they're like getting emotional and mad, and there was some crying and some screaming, and and so you know, and excuse me, I think a lot of it also comes from influence, right? Like we're gonna learn as a husband and wife and as parents how to play chess, and then we can show, you know, they see us doing it. So, um, but that's really good. I want to just wrap up with a couple close rapid fire questions if you're good.
Yeah, okay. I'm ready.
All right. Um, one weekly metric. What's the one metric you check every single week without fail?
Oh gosh. I mean, how much cash I have? Definitely how much cash I have, cash flow.
It's it's literally almost everyone's
Everyone's
metric.
answer. It's a
Yeah.
good one. That's
Yeah.
important.
Well, small businesses, startups is, you know, cash is king.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't disagree. Okay,
Yeah,
name
cash
one
flow.
book other than your own, since you already named it, podcast. You can't name this one, or speech you recommend most to founders under pressure.
Oh, to founders under pressure? I don't know about founders under pressure.
That's okay.
Okay, I have one and it might be weird, but there's a YouTube video called Juice It or Lose It, and it is specifically about adding the like extra little details in a video game that make it quote juicy. And I know that for non-gaming people that might not seem relevant, but I do think the way they explain the layers and layers on top of creating a product to make it truly great and feel good might resonate with your audience. So Juice It or Lose It on YouTube. It's like an old GDC conference talk.
Okay, perfect. All right, complete this sentence. A founder under pressure should always.
Take time for themselves.
Awesome. Annie, this was great. It was amazing catching up. You have a ton of insights. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Eric. It was so good to talk to you today.
Until next time, thanks.
That's it for today's episode of Growth Under Pressure. I'm Eric Josovitz from Adapt CFO, and I hope these insights help you tackle your biggest scaling challenges. If you want to help other founders find the show, give us a quick follow or a share. Thanks for listening, and I hope to catch you next time.